Hi, Sophia. It's such a pleasure to speak with you. I'm Sophia Soto with the Nerds of Color. How are you today?
Great. I love this twin moment we're having.
Yes, honor to twin with you. Um, and I saw the movie last night and it was absolutely fantastic. So huge congrats on that. The film is definitely a heavy one in terms of messages and symbolism, which is something I really appreciated. Is this something that attracted you to the project? And can you expand on what the messages meant to you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, having a conversation with Alana saying I need to process the violence against women of the Trump administration, but also of generations of, medical practice and the way we've all been kind of erased from that space felt incredibly important. And when she sent me the script, I just felt more and more creeped. Every page, I could feel myself kind of doing this, and I thought this is a conversation that feels really worth having right now, and especially as we as a society are doing these joint learnings and unlearnings, to play a woman who is perhaps unwittingly such an agent of the patriarchy while being Alana's, Lucy's best friend. It was such a, pardon my French, but it was such a mind fuck for me to read it.
Yeah.
And I know that this is the experience so many women have in their communities. And I thought if we can show it, we can investigate it. And so it felt really, really important.
And I have to ask you, what was your reaction when you read that twist, in regards to your character and, where her loyalties lie in a way? Because that was
Mhm.
shocking for me. I was really
Yeah.
taken aback.
Yeah. It really, it was unfortunate. And what it sort of spoke to me, it felt to me like a representation of this idea that constantly we see get bastardized, this like American exceptionalism, which gets bastardized into like violent individualism so often. And this idea that she could be so there for her friend, but the moment that it benefited her to uh, betray her, which I think my character would argue wasn't a betrayal at all, which is part
Of
of the problem.
course.
It just, in Corrigan's mind, she's looking out for Lucy, but she's looking out for Lucy and getting something. And it's a really tough pill to swallow, but it happens to so many people. And again, I think that when you can see something represented outside of yourself, it makes it so clear what's wrong, what's right. And I think it really gives us the ability to interrogate ourselves. And what I loved about the movie is that I had to do real interrogation of this character, of women who were like her, of ways in which I had to identify the kind of, misogyny I grew up steeped in and what I'm doing to try to unlearn that. And also the larger conversation around the medical system and how it does not center women, even in terms of fertility and pregnancy, and how, as women are pushed to the margins, women of color are pushed so much farther to such a more marginalized zone. All of these things matter so much. And I thought, if I can represent this character who's this very privileged white woman in New York who is still harming herself and her community with misogyny and with trusting in the system, what what women who might have had that similar experience, I wonder which of them might watch this and recognize that and decide to lean in for themselves and other women better moving forward. That's the highest hope.
And I feel like the best films and the best shows always teach the audience something. And I
Mm.
know you are just this advocate for, female empowerment, which is, as a fan of yours, as a fan of your work, is so inspiring and you do it so well. So I was just curious if you had one last message to give the females out there that are going to watch this movie. What is your call to them? And
Mhm.
did you learn any sort of call?
Yeah, I mean, the movie made me really want to double down on representation everywhere, but especially in the medical industry.
Yeah.
And I think the call for each of us needs to be one that is both honest and graceful. You have to be really willing to be ruthlessly honest with yourself about where you have disempowered yourself or maybe disempowered others.
Yeah.
We're all human. None of us has a perfect track record, again, with ourselves or others. But I think the idea for us all should be to recognize where we have fallen prey to a system we were raised in, and then to decide how we want to be better for us and for everyone in our communities and in our neighborhoods and in our cities and states and in our country. And if we can take it from that individual, that micro, to nationwide macro, and show up for each other, as long as you show up a little better today than you did yesterday, and even if you make a mistake tomorrow, you have the day after that to deal with it. I think we can challenge ourselves there and give ourselves grace for where we may not have known something before we saw this movie or before we read that article or before we attended that talk. And it's that, ruthless honesty and grace where those things meet. That's the point from which I want to try to show up every day. And I hope we can all show up that way together.
Give you a huge congratulations again. I think the film is really going to be a powerful one for audiences, and I'm dying to speak about it, so I can't wait. And
Ah,
thank you. It was such a privilege to get to speak with you about this film specifically. It was really
it's
great.
so nice to speak to you, and thank you for your feedback. Honestly, sometimes you're so in the weeds on something, you go, is anyone going to get it? And hearing the responses like this makes us feel phenomenal.
It was really thought provoking. It really was. It was powerful. So thank you so much again, and have a great rest of your day.